it. It's a thing. I'm sure he's still contemplating. It's a huge decision. And he also seems like the kind of guy that could be like, I'm going to retire. And then 4 months from now, he's like, I think I want to come back. And like, can
right,
you
like one injury to, like Brock Purdy or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you flip me to the Niners? Can you flip me to the Steelers? I do think we'll know either way within a couple of weeks. I think Aaron Glenn will be pretty firm in being like, look, like, we got to get this shit rolling. So if you're on board, you're on board. Let's go. But if you're like waffling, then you probably should retire. It's kind of, like he's a Parcells guy. And Parcells' line is, if you're thinking about retiring, you're retired. So I'm curious if that sort of weighs into some of Glenn's thinking, where he's like, look, man, like, it's not that I don't think you could still play, but if you're like 70-30 or 55-45, it might be better for both parties if we just go our separate ways. I don't know. I do think it's still around 25%. And I think you can make a reasonable enough case either way, which I think we'll be able to do pretty extensively within the next 2 weeks. Now, I'll keep this whole pod on the offensive side of the football. Discord will cover some other topics. I threw out the question today on Twitter, who do you want to see the Jets' other starting receiver be besides Garrett Wilson? And I want to be abundantly clear that I think Garrett Wilson will be on the Jets next year. I think Garrett Wilson will be on the Jets the year after. I think he'll be on the Jets for the medium and long term. And I think it's more likely he gets a contract extension this offseason than traded. And I think a lot of the trade rumors are speculative more than like solid. And I expect him to be here next year. So the question I'm more so asking is that let's put Devontae Adams aside, because if Rodgers is back, Devontae will most likely be back and be the number 2 or 1A or 1B, whatever the hell you want to call it. If it's not going to be him, the receiver depth chart has nothing on it. We don't know if Corley is anything. Gibson's not an NFL receiver. Lazard will be gone, thank goodness. And that's kind of it. There's nobody else to really speak of. So where does your mind go to? A lot of people have flagged McMillan in the draft. I like McMillan a lot. I think he's a perfect contrast for Garrett Wilson's skill set. And they've really needed a player like him for a long time. That being said, they could take Mason Graham at 7. They could take an offensive lineman at 7. They could go corner at 7. They could trade down. You look, there's not going to be a ton in free agency. You're getting Tim Patrick, Darius Slayton level players in free agency. Not that they're not useful and not that they can't be like rotational players, but I don't know. Cooper Kupp obviously is a popular name now. I feel like at this stage of his career, he's not going to come somewhere like this. He's going to go somewhere else. And he did kind of seem pretty diminished towards the end of last year. I tend to think if it's not Devontae and they're not really aggressive in the NFL draft and using a first rounder at the spot, they'll go back to the well, maybe on the trade market. And I don't know who that is. Is that it's a veteran we're probably not thinking of yet, but I think we regularly see that a surprise veteran ends up moving. I've seen Godwin's name thrown around a lot. I feel like we've thrown around Godwin's name for every year since the Jets drafted Ardarius Stewart over him. And I just one of those ones I don't think it's ever really going to happen. But we always know that there's going to be guys on the market. Where do you think the Jets head? Because if they don't have Devontae, they have a glaring need at receiver. Not really just for one body, but 2 bodies, but particularly another starter.
Right, that's the issue. If you don't have Devontae, which is very, like a real reality, you probably have to sign a veteran and assume you're going into the draft and trying to get someone. And when I say sign a veteran, I don't really like this wide receiver group in free agency. I feel like a lot of mediocre players will be paid like good players. But like you're going to have someone that can play. And whether that is Darius Slayton, whether that is Nick Westbrook-Akine, Demarcus Robinson from the Rams, Josh Palmer from the Chargers, like that's the kind of shopping you're doing. You're not going out and paying T. Higgins. Amari Cooper looked done at the end of the year. I mean, this doesn't feel like a place, it just doesn't feel like a place for, obviously you brought up Kupp. That's a good one to bring up because it doesn't feel like a place that, he's going to want to win. His body's breaking down.
There's some DK Metcalf rumors. Could he be looking to move off of his situation in Seattle?
The problem with all of those type of guys that are worth going after, are you going to be a team that, and maybe you are because you think you're going to have a rookie quarterback in the future, although you're going to be carrying dead money from Rodgers for a while. Are you the team that's going to pay 2 number 1 wide receivers? Like I just am baking in this $33 million a year contract extension for Garrett Wilson. So once you do that, you're shopping in the let's get our cheap wide receiver in the draft. And that doesn't have to be round one. Tet McMillan is the guy at 7 if you're looking there. But there's a lot of guys on day 2 that I'm at least intrigued by. I mean, whether it's Jack Best from TCU, whether it's Elikayo Manor from Stanford, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. There's a lot of different guys that fall into that bucket, and a veteran as well. And then it also, you just wonder how you're going to build the offense, right? Because they don't have a tight end technically right now that you feel good about. Is this a scenario where, hey, we're going to actually take Tyler Warren at 7, and we think he's going to be the number 2 of the offense, along with the.
And we're actually going to throw to Breece Hall this year, so he's going to.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you actually have a competent staff, your passing funnel can be Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and a Tyler Warren level tight end, and then everyone under that just kind of falls under that, where like that can be, you can run an effective pass game that way with a real number 1 wide receiver, a top 10 tight end, and a top 8 pass catching running back. That's fine, especially for a team that's going to want to run the heck out of the football.
Yeah.
So there are different avenues that are creative where, rather than just sitting there and going, well, we need a number 2 wide receiver, so we have to go pay somebody that's not very good. That's the trap that when you fall into, it's like, ugh, that's the worst kind of trap you could fall into. I'd rather draft a guy in round 2 or 3 and round 5 and kind of see what sticks there. And if you actually have a scouting department that knows how to draft wide receiver instead of taking Malachi Corley.
Don't even list the whole group out.
Yeah,
it's too depressing.
Yeah, it really, really is insane. So, yeah, it's a great question. It kind of shows how open the door is throughout the draft, and and how things are set up for them, and how this offense is set up as well. And it's the good thing is it's kind of easy if Rodgers is back, because if Rodgers is back, obviously you need to give him pass catchers that are built to win, and Devontae will be back with him. It's like almost like an assumption. If Rodgers isn't back, you can kind of be a little bit more patient. Like, okay, cool, we're going to run the entire offense through Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and then whoever we drafted, with for the first or second round pick, because you're going to take a pass catcher, tight end or wide receiver with a first or second round pick in that scenario. And then guys get experience, and Garrett is completely capable of being the number 1 of the offense. So, yeah, it's not like a red alert situation to me that way. You just got to get the right guy, and they've missed a lot at the position over the years.
Yeah, just be a normal team and find capable pass catchers in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? And it could be a tight end, it could be a receiver. And again, I think receiver and tight end are both on the board as options in round 1. But if you're running a certain kind of offense and you're smart, as you said, you could funnel a lot through Garrett and Breece. You could use Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis that much more. And if they don't have Rodgers, I think they're going to be one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL. I think it's going to be like Tyrod, Fields, Breece, Allen, Isaiah Davis.
See, that's a really good point.
If you have a running quarterback, play defense, and that's it. Yeah,
you might be throwing 22 times a game with that kind of offense. So that's, once again, like there are different levels to this. And I'm not saying that the Jets championship team we envision will be doing that, but what they're trying to build this year and give themselves time. I mean, once again, like look at what the Lions were like when they were there, and then now look at how they've turned it over with Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, even getting Tim Patrick off the scrap heap, and Jahmyr Gibbs is such an elite pass catching back. So it's just, you need a 2-year window. And Jet fans don't want to hear it because the team has lost a lot. But, I mean, let's be fair to Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. They're not going to build Rome in a day.
Yeah, they're not going to build Rome in a day, even if Rodgers is back. It's not going to be a perfect situation. Just certain things click into place a little easier with receiver and quarterback, but we'll know either way relatively soon.
Rodgers being back would be the 2015 McCagnon, like, build up goodwill.
Yeah.
Where it's like they were fun, they won. I think anybody with a real, like just being honest with themselves, knew Brandon Marshall wasn't going to be here for 5 years. Fitz wasn't going to be that good.
Yeah.
But the Jets were fun, and McCagnon built up goodwill, and obviously it ran out because it didn't work. But the first couple of years after that, it was like, okay, like let's see what he does now when it's his turn to build it, not spend it. And maybe that's a path that Muji and Glenn, kind of like here. Get the taste out of everyone's mouth.
I mean, look, at this phase, it's truly wide open. Muji's too young for us to have a good tell either way on where he's thinking. And with Glenn, you can make a case that Aaron Glenn's the kind of guy who wants to start fresh, or Aaron Glenn's the kind of guy who would love to have Aaron Rodgers because he just came from a situation that's like not that different with a veteran quarterback. So the speculation won't have to carry on all that much longer. We are going to jump over to War Room, answer all your Discord questions. As a reminder, Streets of Fire premieres this Monday. War Room only 6-part docuseries, episode 1, featuring Steve Gelbs and his debut on the Fade will be live Monday morning, along with all of our normal content next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. One more shameless plug to go to badlandstoj.com and get a live show ticket and come hang with 200 other maniacs and watch us talk Jets for a few hours. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you soon.